knew that church. It was Fort Boulevard Church. I go over there and I drive 6 blocks out just to see the street that that lady was on. And then I drive slowly back just to look how far she came to meet God. And she didn't even know what she was doing. So the 2 scriptures were lift him up and he will draw people unto him, and worship. He inhabits the worship of his people. And lastly, I want to tell you at the very end, the last time, well, every Friday night after I'd go home, I mean, it was so much bigger than we were. I would go home and I'd get on my face and I'd say, God, why are you doing this for us? I mean, why was he doing it for us? We were just kids. Pastors and youth directors were coming to try to learn from us. All we knew was to lift Jesus up and to worship. And I asked the Lord every week, why are you being so good to us? Why? We are not worthy to be a part of this. We are not worthy to see what we're seeing. Granted, he was moving all over the whole earth at that time, but he could have used anybody else in town. And so I always asked him that. And the last time I led worship at chapel, we were at St. Paul's. And it was one of those times that I almost argued with him because it just got too heavy for me. And I was always afraid someone was a holy roller would show up. I have to confess that. I was always worried about that when the Spirit got really, really strong. I didn't know what I would do. As a worship leader, you're up there. And I've never seen anyone do it yet. But I've heard stories. And I guess it would be okay, but I was always afraid of that. And this was one of those nights, it got really heavy duty, but I had promised the Lord the time before when it got really, really, really heavy duty. I said, you are God, you have done a great job in this so far. Who am I to tell you how to do it and when to slow down? I will never argue with you again. So this night, I just let it flow. And in the middle of that, the Lord spoke to me and said, do you know how many times you have asked me why I am doing this? Why I am doing this? And I said, yes. And he pointed out 2 ladies in the audience. They were way, way back there. I knew them from Paul McEacham's church. You know, I was a Baptist at the time. I would sneak over to Paul McEacham's church on Sunday nights often, and sometimes on Wednesdays. And I had experienced the Holy Spirit in the Baptist church, but I wasn't supposed to. And I was standing right next to the pastor, but I didn't know what it was, so I didn't tell him. And I thought everyone who got baptized had that experience, and that's how I witnessed to people. You got to get saved, and now you got to get baptized. And people would say, I don't think I got what you got. But at any rate, I knew these 2 ladies. One of them was Mrs. Oppenheim, Sammy Oppenheim's mother, if you ever knew him. One was a lady named Mrs. Brown. I knew them, and I knew they were worshipers. And it was obvious from what the Lord said to me that they were intercessors. And I was so humbled by what their prayer life must have been like